In organizations I've worked in, people have made huge decisions to change the whole direction of the company, and folks have walked out of that room not being supportive, but they never spoke up, okay? So if you're making a huge decision, here's my recommendation. Try what I call 5-finger consensus. What that says is to say, okay, we're now going to vote. Here's the issue. How many people strongly disagree that's a 5? They hold their hand up, and you look around and you see the 5. That strongly agree with this decision, somewhat agree with this decision is 4. 3, what is this, the Girl Scout or the Boy Scouts? Okay. 3 is, you know, I'm either don't care or I can support it. I'm okay with it. 2 is, you know, I'm not happy. I'm not happy. 1 is I strongly disagree. Have them use this finger. 1 is, sorry. 1 is I strongly disagree, you know. Now, a shy person might be willing to hold up a 2, but at least you'll see their 2. And then you stop and say, okay, let's talk about this. You know, we clearly don't have a consensus here, okay. As opposed to yes and no. You know how kind of clear-cut yes and no is? Okay, one little tip. All right. Any questions about board and committee meetings? Okay, now, next. So this is the one that the right leaders are in place as board and committee chairs. A good board can't let the selection of board and committee chairs up to chance. And as I said, it's a major strategic issue. So we've talked about it a bit in terms of developing, and down below on the next page I start to talk about development. When you have them in place, the ED and the board chair serve as coaches, okay? Clearly be able to coach your chairs, work with them. We usually just send them off to be chairs. Have formats, in fact, gosh, let me see. Let me back up to committees. Prior to committees, I have a whole list of different committees in your handout, so if you want to review that, that's in there. Okay. So committee, and by the way, committee participation is the best way to check out leadership of people that you're going to. To have a good board chair or committee chair, you need to find people that have the time and have the commitment. And that's the biggest challenge you can do. In choosing a board chair, one of the things that I recommend is your whole board sits down and says, what are the responsibilities of the board chair? So you hear everybody's talking about what they're going to be, okay? And then you come back and share them. How will we know as a board when the job's being performed well? What is our board chair going to be doing? So we'll know that. And what personal and professional attributes and competencies should the board chair have? I've got a board chair. I have officer job descriptions in that handout that you have, which talks to you what the typical board chair responsibilities are. Yes?
When you talk about having the time to be the board chair, do you normally recommend that you sort of look at those folks on your board who are no longer in the working world and are retired? Is that just a much easier solution?
I think it is, absolutely. In fact, I'd be targeting some of those. That's the one category I'm not sure we ever identified, and we should have, is retired people. You know, and you know, they are getting younger. Up until last year, they're getting younger every day. Yeah, because you know, the best way to develop a high-performing board is to just have an amazing board chair. You can't always do that. You know what I'm saying? And that has the time, has the commitment, and has all the training to know exactly what to do. And that's like saying you can find the best CEO you can in a company. Good luck. You know, this is not printing down board chairs. I'm just saying it's a lot of work. So to the extent that I think one gets mentored, one gets coached, it's critical. And retired people, I think, are a great opportunity for that, in terms of that leadership. That's right. Has anybody found any sort of magical ways to recruit board chairs? Anyone has to share? Or okay. One of the criteria, by the way, in looking for board members is leadership potential. I would be looking at some people, and they don't have to have the biggest title on the block. They don't have to be the biggest community leader. But if you've seen them run great committees before, you think that person might be someone you want to bring in just to groom them to be a board chair and can relate well to people. Okay. All right, next one. Board has effective processes for selecting, developing, and transitioning new leaders. And this is where we say make the process transparent. If you're choosing a board chair in some groups, it's not a small group going off in a corner deciding who to do it. You need to be real clear about who's going to be choosing officers, how's that process going to be carried out, and then come to the board with the officers for approval. All right. Sometimes boards really get in trouble around how officers get chosen. It can really break up a board. So one, have it transparent. Consider a chair-elect position. It's a great position to develop somebody in. Utilize committee rotations for development. Send people around your committees. Encourage your leaders to attend educational seminars. And as I've already said it, choose new board members for leadership potential. It can work. Okay? Here's my favorite. All right. Okay. Board members and the board evaluate themselves on a yearly basis. If you want to really turn your board around, all you have to do is implement this, and it will make all the difference in the world. This is where one small change makes a significant difference. Even as simple as saying, how well did we do last year? Could we do better this year? Something that simple could make a miracle difference, okay? Strongly recommend that a board sets annual goals for itself, okay? And annual goals for a board could be in fundraising, recruitment. We're going to recruit this type of person this year. Another category could be advocacy. And then there are these sort of process improvement goals. We'll have X number of attendance this year of our board members, and we'll start every board meeting on time. And so at the beginning of the year, your board sets these goals. And then at the end of the year, you can revisit the goals. So that's one way for a board to evaluate itself. Now, in your handouts on page 12 to 15, you have a second way for a board to evaluate itself. And these are what I call process criteria. And this on page 12 to 15 on these board evaluations. If you wanted to do this, you do this like every 3 or 4 years. This is, we have the right committee, we have this and this and this. It gets into the real details about, we keep minutes, we have the right chairs, we do this and this. It's much more detailed than the performance goals. About 3 or 4 years, it's helpful to do those sorts of things. And finally, an individual member evaluation. And these are also on page 16 to 18 in there. So I recommend the board goals yearly. Individual member evaluation in your handouts as well. There's some nice questions in there. Say to some board members, and this is where each board member can go around and say, look, my goal this is the contribution I'd like to make to this organization this year. This is what I'd like to accomplish. These are the committees I'd like to serve on. And then at the end, you revisit and say, how did it go? So you'll see yes?
What role would you recommend staff play in evaluating upwards?
Help me understand that.
Would the ED participate in evaluating his board's effectiveness? Or would that be the ED just lets the board evaluate themselves?
I think it depends on the ED. I think you could do both. But if I were the ED, I wouldn't get involved in an official evaluation. But I do think clearly with your relationship with your board chair, and I think you could say to the board, look, I think these are the areas you all might want to work on. I think that's appropriate. Yes?
I was going to say, I would imagine the ED being closely involved in the development of the tools the board chooses.
Yes.
And then letting them.
Yeah. In fact, I guess as I look at it, if I were kind of consulting, I'd say wait to see what your board does first.